Hello, hi Bridget.
Hi, hello. How is everyone?
Doing well. How are you guys? Good. Okay, cool. How are you,
Perfect.
Bridget?
Great. I'm so excited to be here with you guys tonight. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, happy to have you. Just so you know, we're waiting on our other guest speaker now, but just so excited to have you here. So, yeah, we're gonna have
Thank
a
you. I'm excited to be here. I am actually from around KSU. My brother actually graduated from KSU. I was born and raised in Woodstock, so this is really an exciting moment to be here for me to support you guys.
awesome. Is anyone in here from Woodstock area or live in Woodstock area? Oh, okay,
Oh, I see a hand. Hi,
cool.
friend.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, yeah, no, we're going to have a great conversation tonight about event planning and PR, very important part of PR. So I know I personally am super excited because in my internship right now, we're planning some pretty big events. One of our clients is a tech incubator for Forsyth County, and they're planning a venture summit for like 2, 3 days in the fall. And I'm not really in charge of planning it, but if I can jump in, I want to know where I can jump in. So I'm super excited to get this conversation going. So does anyone else
That's
have any? Yeah, go ahead, Bridget.
That's great. That can-do attitude really will carry you far. That's something so beautiful about where you guys are in your careers. When you're first starting out, you have the excuse to say, I'm still new, I'm still a newbie, to ask the questions. I personally wish I could still ask. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So don't be afraid, especially in this stage in your career, to ask the questions, jump in where you can, job shadow, even if it's outside of marketing or outside of public relations, if it's in marketing, if it's in sales, computer software, that would actually serve you really well. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm new. Can I shadow you? Can I ask you these questions? And everyone really does want to help. So that's perfect. But everyone else, raise your hand if you've got an internship that you're currently working through or you're hoping to get one for the summer.
Yeah, awesome.
Perfect. I love to see all the hands raised. What is the distribution of years in school that we have? Do we have mainly upperclassmen, lowerclassmen?
Mainly upperclassmen. Is anyone in here a sophomore? No, juniors and up? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know we'll have one sophomore join us. For anyone on Zoom, if you are in a classification lower than junior year in college, drop it in the chat. I want to know if you're here. Most of our organization, because usually what happens is pretty much like in PRSSA, all of the students who are getting into have passed their like all their prereqs and have actually gotten admitted into the PR major. That's when we really start to see you guys come into PRSSA. So usually we get juniors and some sophomore, but with the upcoming e-board application opening up, hopefully we'll see some people moving up in the ranks and bringing in some younger bodies. So I'm excited for that.
Highly recommend. I support that plug. Highly recommend getting involved in the e-board. I was in PRSSA at Mississippi State, got involved in the e-board, and it definitely opened up a lot of doors, but also helped refine my skills. So definitely, definitely recommend.
Oh, thank you, Bridget. Thank you
Yeah.
for advocating. That's awesome. Now, listen, while we wait for Adrian, I'll give it a couple minutes. But I wanted to, since this is slightly off topic of the
That's
event PR conversation, I wanted to kind of tap your brain. You mentioned something about how being proficient in different like tech software, like that can help you in PR. I know totally different conversation, but just
not
want
at
to
all.
brain a bit.
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, you have me here, ask the questions, and I'm also happy to stay on the call past the scheduled time to answer any questions y'all may have. But absolutely learn as much as you can. So what I really have witnessed in the journey of my career, and I know this is one of the questions, but I started out in broadcast, then went to public relations, fun little story there. And you're starting to see where public relations, advertising, and marketing really are starting to intersect in this new field called MarCom, marketing communication. And in this role, you will implement a lot, you'll need to build a lot of tool sets in sales, in business administration, managing a budget, keeping things on timeline, project management, but also knowing how to manage computer software is so helpful because you're going to add to what's called your MarTech stack, your marketing technology stack of softwares that you use, a CRM, which is contact record management. Your website's going to be huge. I can't tell you how many times I've had to sit in there and code the website. Definitely not a coder by nature, but it was helpful picking up HTML, a little bit of Java, and CSS. Definitely could not go and build a beautiful website from start to finish, but having that knowledge will help a lot. So the more you can grow that muscle, especially since in Atlanta we're seeing a lot of emerging technology companies come out of the city and come out of this Metro Atlanta space. If you're looking to stay in the area, the more you know about technology, the more it will serve you. Even if you don't use it in the day-to-day, it will come up in your career.
That's awesome. No, I so appreciate that. No, I wanted to pick your brain on that mainly because I don't know about y'all in here, but I am not. I kind of feel like a grandma with technology, which is terrible because I'm like, oh, pick me. I want a career in PR. But no, I just wanted to pick your brain on that and see kind of where you were. I probably need to learn a little bit of code.
Code Academy. It's fun. You get these cute little animals and things that pop up that help you through. Also, a shameless plug for my organization, Optima Ed. We are offering a coding class online through virtual reality. So I'm happy to send some information on that as well. But definitely get in there and learn about it.
Oh, super cool. Awesome, Bridgette. Well, I think at this point, it's possible that Adrian could be having some tech issues. So, Bridgette, you already kind of let us in a little bit on, your background, like getting into PR, but let's just kind of jump full swing. And, when Adrian joins, we can ask her the same kind of question. But yeah, how did you get started in PR? And tell us a bit about your role at Optima Ed, what you're doing, your journey.
Absolutely. Happy to talk about it. So, my journey through PR was like with most college students, it kind of took a little twists and turns. I started out as a broadcasting major at Mississippi State. I wanted to go be the next Diane Sawyer. And I really got involved with our on-campus athletic communication department, as well as with the Southeastern Conference on their media team. And a lot of the experience I was getting was in public relations. I did some work for PBS while on campus, doing some filming work, live to tape. And I was like, you know what? Public relations, I can use the writing skill that I love. The hours are way better. And you really get to express that creative muscle in a way that's different from broadcasting. So I continued to dive in there, had internships that built along the way, and just fell in love with it. And it was just something, it checked all the boxes. I knew I always wanted to do something in media, as well as to connect people. I really have a passion for connecting people with information that will help them. And as communicators, that's one of the top things that we do. So I worked in Atlanta for a little bit after I finished my undergraduate degree at Mississippi State. And then I decided I wanted to grow a little bit more in my career. So I went on to get my master's degree at the University of Alabama in advertising and public relations while working full-time, so I could continue to build my professional skill set while also being a student. And during that season, I really found a heart for emerging companies, so your entrepreneurs, your small businesses, and emerging technology. And I've been able to build upon that in my career. And that's really what led me to Optima Ed. I'm really proud of my organization and what we're doing. We are a nonprofit organization that helps connect students with a quality education, regardless of their status, their background, or what they have going on. They can have access to a quality education. With Optima Ed, we have a nonprofit arm for our foundation where we raise money for our schools. And then we have our LLC side where we operate and manage 4 brick and mortar schools and then the first public virtual reality school. So my job as the director of marketing is to look at all the different schools that we manage. Our virtual reality school called Optima Academy Online, I'll refer to it as OAO. And then also our 4 brick and mortar schools, managing enrollment for the schools, managing advertisement, social media content, video content, placement for the media. We've gotten great coverage by Forbes, Essence Magazine, New York Times, Inc. Magazine. So some really great stuff, as well as submitting for awards. And in that comes a lot of event planning. Did that cover what you're looking for?
Oh, completely. Yeah, no, that I can kind of see where the event planning really comes into play, and I'm so excited to deep dive into that. So let's just keep the ball rolling here. So we kind of already answered one of the questions. How'd you know you wanted to go into PR? Found your heart for it. Journalism to PR.
Journalism to PR, although I do have to give props to PRSSA. I was heavily involved in it during my undergraduate career when I was still trying to decide broadcasting or PR. I got really involved in PRSSA. I attended, as well, I came back to the Atlanta chapter of PRSA, attended the Georgia conference, and I'm like, this was amazing. I drank the Kool-Aid. As well as the advisor of the PRSSA chapter, Dr. John Ford at Mississippi State, also helps spark the fire for my love of PR.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh man, I love it. I love that you're a fellow PRSSA former member. That's so exciting.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into the meat and potatoes here. So before we get into like your role in event planning at Optima Ed, like first of all, just let's preface, how much time goes into your event planning?
It really varies. So I'm about 8-9 years deep in my postgraduate career at this point, post-undergraduate career. And it really varies based off of who your client is, who your target audience is, and then what's the scope of the event, how many people are you looking to attend. So when I was working as the assistant for events during my time at the University of Alabama, there was this event called the Hall of Fame, where we work with big name celebrities like Paul Feinbaum, Reese Davis, and some really heavy hitters. And so we took 2 years to plan that event. And then a user conference that I planned at a prior company, Operative IQ, sorry, there's a lot of Operative IQ. We were planning that for a year and a half, and especially during COVID, there were some fun transitions there. But a trade show event where you're going to pop up a booth, have an event there, really you're only planning that like 2 months in advance. You could have a dinner with donors like we have for Optima Ed, where you're planning it like a month in advance, or just a pop-up event with students that's a week in advance. So it really just depends on what's your audience, who's going to attend, and that attendance number kind of makes it grow a little bit. We're working on an event right now for the foundation that we're having March 26th in Naples, Florida, with Greg Gutfeld. So we've been planning that for 6 months. So it really depends.
Okay, awesome. No, that's good insight. So let's talk about the resources and information that you use when pitching and planning an event. So let's talk pre-production here. What all goes into that process?
Okay, so resources and information was your question?
Yes.
Resources and information when planning an event. So you want to go into an event knowing as much as you possibly can. You want to have, the first place I usually start is, how many people do we want to attend and what's the purpose? And then you kind of fill in from there. And with purpose, it can be for public relations. It could be letting people know like, hey, we've got this new product, come check it out. Or, hey, our CEO is having a town hall, come sit and chat with us. Or it could be a number of different things. So you want to know what's the goal. Is it for revenue or is it for attention? And then you really want to, I work off of spreadsheets when it comes to events. You really want to backfill your timeline. So where do you want the event? What kind of date are you looking at? What kind of date range and what's available for the location? And then you backfill from there. Okay, now what promotions do I need to do? What platforms are available? Budget is so huge. Are you working on the shoestring, or can you go all out? So you want to think as big picture as you can. Event planning, you have to work in both. One of my mentors famously calls it the clouds in the dirt. So you've got to be in the dirt and the roots of what's going on, but also see the clouds, the 1,000-foot view. So details, big picture, clouds and dirt. So you want to see as much information as you can and fill in between there. And you're always learning as you go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes perfect sense. I really like that analogy, clouds and dirt. And I think that's probably, I think we like visuals here in this group. So I think that really sticks. No, awesome. So then let's talk about like the difference between like pre-production, production, and post-production. Like kind of talk us through that process. I don't know if you have any particular example that you want to walk us through or just a general like guideline, but just walk us through that process.
Yeah, so 80% of the event is going to be in pre-production, about 15% in production, and then 5% in your follow-up and post-production. So really everything you do goes into the planning. And I always like to go in as well with multiple different scenarios. Backup plan B, backup plan C, backup plan D, because you never know what can happen, but you have to plan for it. You have to hope for the best, expect the worst. And pre-production, really as much lead time as you can give yourself, the better. And it's better to get on top of events quickly and then just watch it roll forward versus just being like, oh, it's not for 6 months, it'll be fine. You always need more time. Always. I'm always doing things to the last minute. Now, what goes into pre-production is logistics, and also attendance and getting registrants. So you have to think of, not only do you have your logistics planned out for where is it going to be, what food are we serving? Do they need name badges? Do they need the little lapel kind, or do they need the neck kind? What are we giving away? What's the content? You also have to think through, okay, how do we promote this event? What platforms are we going to use? What content? Where are our registrants at? And you have registration quotas you have to get as well. So an example of that that's easy for me to illustrate is a local company, Operative IQ, out in Austell, Georgia. They work with firefighters and EMTs, and they have a user conference every 18 months. And literally the day after the event happens 1 year, you're already planning for the next year. So you're already 18 months in advance. So you're thinking through, what topics do we need to cover? As far as content, coordinating with speakers, coordinating where they're going to stay. You have to usually negotiate a hotel if you're having people come in from out of town for bigger events. You have to have room blocks, which is something that when I was new in my career and new in event planning, I didn't even know what that was. And you really have to read through the contract before you go any further. And then you're backfilling with, when are our speakers going to rehearse, or when are they getting into town? Are we having a speaker dinner? What content specifically are they going to cover when? Working on the agenda. It takes 3 months to solidify an agenda for a 4-day event, and to get everything ready to go for that. Table linens are a huge thing. Thinking through what you need to have. People fight over table linens, but also directional signage. Literally all the way down to, what do the notepads look like that they're going to be taking their notes on? You really have to get into the nitty gritty. Think about, if you were experiencing an event, what would be important to you? So all of that is planned well beforehand. And then you have the event, right? So you have to have for the event a work schedule. Who's going to be covering certain rooms at certain times, certain shifts. And then you show up, and really it's kind of like clockwork if you've done your job right on the pre-production, where you've planned out everything. Everyone has their work schedule. Everyone has scripts that they need for whether they're interacting in a room or if they're interacting with speakers. You have speaker logistics down. So it's just kind of rolling forward. You show up, everything happens. And then in post-production, you really analyze what went well, what went wrong. Did we stay within budget? Did we go over budget? And what was that customer attendee feedback like? Did they love it? Did they not? But that's for a bigger event. I would like to take time to also speak through probably what you guys will be doing a lot of, which is trade show or new product releases. And that's a little different. Usually for trade shows, you kind of just show up. You plan you have to buy carpet when you go to the trade shows. So you plan carpet, you plan your booth backdrop. So are you going to have one giant one behind you, or are you going to have 2 banners? Are you going to have a display up? What kind of giveaways are you going to have? And you get all of that in order about a month before. And then you send your people out to the trade shows, make sure they have their coordinated clothing. They show up, they do the thing, and then you get a bunch of leads from it and they come back. A product release is kind of like a combination of the two.
Mhm.
So if you have questions about that specifically, but it's usually about a 3-month plan.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that gives some good insight of all the different possibilities. No, and I love that you broke that down between like large scale annual knockout event and then, just the daily. So thank you. That's awesome.
Yes.
So let's talk about, so you said like you often work down to the wire. There is never enough time. So
Never.
yeah, so in that, I can only assume that you probably run into some last minute changes and curveballs. So what are your tips for pivoting in those last minute kind of times?
Yeah, so it kind of goes to the nature of what we do as public relations professionals throughout our career. You have to be willing to pivot. And as a type A person, that took a hard time to adjust to. It's like, wait, I have spreadsheets and I have my agenda and everything's planned out, but you have to be willing to pivot. And that's where thinking ahead really helps. Having the all the way to plan D for backup plans, thinking through, okay, well, if they say this and if they say that, and you'll get to know your decision makers really, really well, whether that's a CEO, a CMO, director of marketing, VP of sales, whoever that is, where it could be the event host or the hotel where you're at. There are always going to be things that come through, and you just have to know the area around the event that you're hosting. You have to know your decision makers, and you'll get to know that over time. I can think of an event that I was hosting, actually going back to the user conference. It's a great example of that. Right before, a week before the user conference, we had 400 people coming into town to Atlanta, and they were government employees. So they had to go through a procurement process, which is this long drawn out approval process to give us their money. And the hotel called that we had a block with a week before and said, oops, we overbooked, you got booted, sorry. So I had to organize 400 guests into a hotel. So thankfully, you build connections along the way. I had built connections along the way for the hotels, and I was able to get them rehomed, but they were spread out into a bunch of different areas. And this was in the Battery in Atlanta, where the Braves play. So there's a bunch of different hotels, but there's also a lot of traffic. So then we had to get them buses to carry them from the different hotels to the Battery where we were having the conference. And that just came from knowing the area, making connections along the way, and having backup plans. But similarly for a trade show, giving a different perspective, we were planning to go for Lab Links, my previous position, go to a trade show in Texas. And this was on the heels of COVID. And in the lab industry, they're very guideline focused. So the person we had going to the trade show was not vaccinated, and they required people to be vaccinated. But then also our CEO did not like our banners that we were going to take to the show, and he wanted to completely redo our presentation deck. And this was like 48 hours before we were going to go. So we had to pull in a new team member, and kind of call in some favors with our team members and be like, okay, here you go. I know that you are going to Disney this weekend with your family, but I really need you here. And I had to pull on some favors from my printer for where we get our banners printed, and have them work overtime and ship it to the trade show that we needed it for in Texas. Thankfully, it all worked out. But that's where building your network and thinking through all the different scenarios can be really helpful, and knowing the people around you and knowing how you can help them, how they can help you, and how you can help each other to support the organization is key.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Make friends along the way. You're going to need them. Wow. So that's wow. Okay, awesome. So you had mentioned earlier that you can work with you may be presented with different budgets in your time, event planning, whether it's shoestring or go all out. So can you tell us like your experience or best tips to stay within budget, what it's like to work on a budget or pitch, hey boss, maybe we need this, or maybe we don't need this, what is that like?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to address is the boss piece. The more you can take the mental load from your boss, the better. And what I mean by that is the more you can present them a full plan and say, this is what I want to do. Are you on board? Yes or no? The more likely you're going to get that yes. Now, as far as managing a budget, Excel is going to be your best friend, but also so is going to be that cloud view. You're going to want to stay out of the dirt. You're going to want to see the clouds, and you're going to take that pie that you get and break it up into different chunks. So, and also prioritize what's most important to your leadership and what's most important to you. And it's kind of like campaign planning, what's going to have the highest ROI. Now with a budget, specifically for events, usually the venue is going to take the most amount of your change. So if you can get that cost down, or just make that your priority, and you can build everything around that. If it's a single day event, if you can save on food, that's great. If it's a multi-day event, you're gonna lose a lot of money on food. So see if you can increase revenue through your registrants. And that would be a way to break up the piece of the pie. But really, you've got to plan around location and food, and everything else falls in between. Now, what you can do is you can build, like, I usually do threes. I do things in threes, 3 different versions for my boss. The middle one is usually the one I want to go with. The lesser one is either the budget I was given or a little bit under. And then I have my dream budget. What I would do with this event if I could just write the check. And if you present all 3 options, justify your reasoning, can show line by line where the cost is going, and present that to your boss. That kind of goes back to the mental load and say, here are the 3 options for the plans. Which one would you go with? And I want to go with this one. Do you agree? And usually they'll say, like, yes, okay, I see your reasoning, let's go with that one. Sometimes I've had where they'll go with the more expensive, but rarely do they go with the least expensive, because you showed them, if we go middle of the road here, here's what we can get. But you never, ever, 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 ever want to go to your boss without thinking things through. You never want to go to them without a full thought through plan. And that'll go into your budget as well, as you build around the food, build around the venue, build around the must-haves. And then you can kind of go with, okay, these are nice to haves, but these we don't really need, but hey, they would enhance. Like, you don't need a balloon arch, but maybe just a directional sign or a welcome sign could suffice. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it absolutely did. Thank you. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, let's see. Going down the list of questions here, trying to see of what we haven't covered, because we've had such a great conversation so far. Okay. So this is one that I'm personally very interested in as an intern right now at a marketing agency doing PR. I've watched a little bit how client communication can go. It can go fantastic, it could go okay, and it can go poorly at times. So in times when you are planning an event, if it's, since, this can be an event for, clients, it can be an event for, industry professionals or whoever, what do you do? Or what are your best tactics for getting more effective communication with just people involved who may not be communicating effectively?
Okay. So to get people involved that are not communicating effectively, whether it's a client, whether it's a vendor, whether it's somebody in your organization, the number one thing is always think and communicate with the receiver in mind. So I don't know if you guys have studied the model of communication, but if you haven't, let me break it down real quick. So as we're delivering messages to people, whether it's one-on-one or one-to-many, there are always going to be a lot of things that can get in the way between you and the person you're communicating with. That could be what you're filtering your message through is different from the filter that they're receiving it through. You guys, that's kind of like where love languages come in, or different leadership styles or personality styles. So that's a filter you have to work with, as well as the external noise. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe it's really noisy and they can't hear you, or they're sick, or they have their phone buzzing and it's their boss on the phone. or it's a lot of email clutter and you're trying to get to them through written communication. So you always have to think through what is the receiver going through and how can I best communicate that to them. So as far as communicating with difficult people, try to think through, why are they difficult? What's going on? And even if you can't answer those questions, try to be as clear and direct in your communication as you can. Sometimes when you're young in your career, I'm extremely guilty of this. You'll have a lot of exclamation points and how was your day? I hope you're having a wonderful day. By the way, I need this. Thank you so much. You're the best ever. Sincerely, Bridgette. So trying to be as clear, removing as much of the noise as you can. And also don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions. So let's say, for instance, Christian, I'm calling you out here. Let's say, for instance, Christian came to me and he's like, let's flip that. I came to Christian and I was like, hey, Christian, I need your help with this event. He would come to me and be like, well, what event? When is it happening? What day? And I'd be like, oh, it's in the email. And he's like, great. Here's the email, just to reply back. Here's what I'm seeing. And that would be a great way to handle the conversation. Ask those clarification questions, prompt it. And it's okay to say, hey, here's what I'm receiving. Let me make sure you're receiving this too. Are we on the same page? Using that language, clarify, on the same page. So we are reading from the same script of music, what have you, just showing them you're on their team, you're on their side, and you're trying to help them through really helps. And also you can say like, hey, I understand you've got a lot of clients coming to you at once and you've got a lot of events. It's a busy season, but this is what I need. So recognizing, hey, I understand you're going through this, but this is what I need, can disarm people a little bit. So always thinking with the receiver in mind, but also asking follow-up and clarifying communications. Questions?
Yeah. Oh, that makes total and complete sense. And I have to say, you actually picked the perfect person to pick on a little bit, because Christian is he's the VP for Kennesaw PRSSA, and Christian plans a lot of our events, like Secure and You for our chapter meeting. So I can confirm Christian does a great job of modeling Bridgette's best practices of, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Is this what you need? So yeah, thank you for that great advice, and your intuition is impeccable. So it's great.
We're Christian.
So yeah, no, that was just some awesome advice. So now let's just get into the, more just like warm, fuzzy feelings about what you do. So what has been your favorite event that you've planned?
Oh, goodness. There have been so many. So before my professional career, I also supported my mom, who was a wedding planner. So many events. But my favorite would probably have to be working with the University of Alabama through this event called Capstone Communication Day. So not only did I work full-time during my master's program, I also had an assistantship. And I was in charge of recruitment and events for the college. And we put on this event every year called Capstone Communication Day, where we would invite rising juniors and seniors in high school to come to our school. They get to meet with Big Al, they get to meet with the teachers, go through like a test class, hear about the different majors, go have lunch in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and ask whatever questions they want and be a student for a day. So I really enjoyed that event because not only did I get to meet with prospective students, I also got to highlight the college, all the great things about it. I got to work with my friends on the event. I got to reach across the aisle to different departments within the university to help make it happen. And I got to see Big Al. Who doesn't love to see your favorite school mascot? Don't tell Bully at Miss Be Safe that. But it was really fun. It was great. It was a hard-working event. And during that season, my supervisor actually had to leave for a new job. So her responsibilities fell on me. So I really got to run the event. And I got to do it on a big stage and on a big scale. We had the president of the university there. And we had so many eyes on us, and being able to complete that through to completion. And most importantly, helping students either find their home or realize that the University of Alabama was not their future home was really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And I just kind of want to For people on Zoom, feel free to drop in the chat. And then for people in the room, how many of you have been to an event, maybe at KSU, maybe at a different university or with a different organization where you really felt like it was meant for you, like they did a great job of planning it? Hands? Yeah. Okay, good. I'm hoping Kennesaw, because we're all here, right? So awesome. Yeah, no, and it just goes to show like just how welcoming it can be and rewarding for obviously for you, Bridgette, and people like you who plan those events. And then on the back end, how welcoming it can be for people like us, the students. So that's an awesome example. I'm glad that you used that one. So then let's talk about Optima Ed. What is your favorite part about your job at Optima Ed?
My favorite part about my job at Optima Ed is that I get to connect students with quality education, regardless of where they come from, and in the method that works best for them. So whether it's our brick and mortar schools or our virtual reality school, or we're moving to more of an a la carte college style course delivery. So you can work course by course. So you can add this into your high school education or your middle school education, or if you're a home learner, regardless of where you are in life, you have the right and the access to equal education. All of our schools are tuition free, and they are public to any student that wants to take it. So being able to do that, but also being able to be at the forefront of innovation and of some of the biggest topics that we're having in our country right now. How does virtual reality impact students? How does virtual reality impact our culture? I get to be a part of that. Why should we let parents and students choose their education journey? That school choice is a huge topic right now, as well as reforming our education and giving our students the tools that they need. And I get to be a part of that. And I get to support people in making their dreams come true. And that's really a unique thing that we get to do in the profession that we're in, is we get to connect people with information they need that makes their lives easier. I actually own my own, or starting on the side, my own marketing firm called Homegrown Communications. And one of my clients is Viking River Cruises. So a little segue, but I get to work with clients that are in their 70s and 80s and even newlyweds and people at all different walks of life, and help make their dreams come true by having their dream vacation and connecting them with travel agents that give them extra onboard ship credit so they can do even more with their vacations. And oftentimes you'll hear like, this was the last one with my husband or wife, or wow, we've remembered this 30 years later after our initial honeymoon, and it's been such a great story in our marriage. So regardless of what entity we're in, we get the opportunity to help improve people's lives. And Optima is just a new season of that I'm so grateful to be a part of, and so grateful to help students along the way and make a difference.
Wow, no, that's awesome, Bridgette. And I have to say the timing of having you speak to us right now is perfect, because our previous chapter meeting was nonprofit PR, and we got to hear some fantastic stories about how other industry professionals were touching the lives of others, and you've just carried on in that same tune. So it's just perfect timing that you're here talking to us about that.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad I can help.
Yeah, and it sounds like, you know, what you've done with Optima Ed and you know, your previous experience in PR has kind of led you to this new and exciting venture with, you know, your own beginnings. So I was super excited for you and all that's to come out of that, helping people to enjoy their dream vacations. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. What other questions can I answer? How can I best support y'all?
Yeah, so, you know, that's a perfect timing that you ask, because now is about the time that we open it up to the floor. So for people on Zoom, y'all feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, definitely get you all situated with your questions and open it up to anyone in the room. You're welcome to take my seat and talk to Bridgette.
Before we get started, let me go ahead and share my contact information in the chat as well. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, as well as through email or text message, phone call, either one's fine. If you text me or call me, just let me know who you are. But let's see, let me put that in. I'm putting my LinkedIn first.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. I already see some very excited people in the room that are like, oh, thank goodness. So thank you, Bridget.
Perfect. Usually the fastest way to reach me is through text message or through LinkedIn. Email just gets so bogged down. So feel free to reach out anytime. Okay,
Yeah.
who is my question from? I'm so sorry to delete you.
So, oh, no, you're totally fine. So real quick, everyone in here, did you get that on the screen? Okay, cool. Just before we end the meeting, if you didn't get it, just be like, hey, Lauren, can you pull that chat screen back up? Yeah, you got it. Okay, so Zari, let's go ahead and start with your question. If you want to come on screen and ask, you're welcome to, or if you want to drop something in the chat, I can read it out. Whatever is preferred.
Hi, Zari. Hi, Zari.
Hi, Bridget. I am actually on my way to the meeting in person. I actually just got off work. But I have a blog, and I really loved how you pointed out that like coding would help in making websites. So I'm really interested in knowing more about your coding class.
Absolutely. Happy to speak more to that. So the coding class, there are a couple different I've taken, and I'm a little self-taught as well, but Code Academy is a great resource. I believe it's free, or KSU might have a license for you. But they start you out very basic, and it builds with you as you continue to grow. So that's a huge help. HubSpot also has some really great coding research or coding classes that you can take for free. Trying to think of some other resources for coding. Coding adjacent, the more you can learn about the Google algorithm, the better. So there is Skillshop, I believe it's called, but then also LinkedIn Learning has some stuff, and Coursera, where you can learn about Google Ads, Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, learn about the algorithm. I spend 75% of my day fighting the algorithm. So highly recommend that in addition to coding to sharpen your skills. And also, way to hustle, Zari. Way to hustle. What other questions can I answer?
Yeah, so anyone in the room have questions? Come on up, Isabel. I know you've been waiting. Okay. Oh, no worries, sorry. Thank you so much for asking questions. And again, if anyone on Zoom has any more questions, just please drop them in the chat. Isabel, take the floor, girl. There is nothing I love more than event planning. So how did you get into that specifically? I've applied for internships for it, and I'm just not getting a lot of feedback. So is there anything like you can recommend or to make you look better for event planning?
Yeah, so the first thing is feel free to send me your resume, and I'm happy to take a look at it and give you some pointers and feedback. The applicant tracking system really can work against you, whether that's an internship or a job. And it goes back to algorithms, learning algorithms, and even in event planning, like the keywords are going to be huge. Now, as far as getting your foot in the door with event planning, it really is, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Go into LinkedIn, look at people in the Metro Atlanta area that are in event planning. Ask them if you can shadow them. Ask them if you can even just hop on a phone call with them for a few minutes and ask them about their job. It may not lead to something initially, but what it does is it puts you in the back of their mind. So as they're thinking of, wow, I need somebody here to help me, or I need an event planner here to help me, or a student intern, you're going to come first of mind. And there may be people that as you do that, they may not follow up, they may not reach back out, but it's kind of a numbers game. The more quality conversations, keyword quality, not quantity, that you have, the more likely you are to get that yes. And it's a lot of work. Public relations, marketing, Marcom, advertising, getting your foot in the door is a very, 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 very hard thing. But once you do, you build on that momentum, you build your connections. You have to work hard to get there, but it's so rewarding when you do, because our field is so connection based, especially for events. Also too, there's no shame in reaching out to like the Cobb Galleria or certain event locations around the area and saying like, hey, here's what I want to do. If you have volunteer work that comes up for events, let me know. Also, I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. Getting involved on your campus. So if you're in a sorority or, even with PRSSA, e-board, the more you can show that you planned events, regardless of how big or small, really what they're looking for is not like the big name of the event, like, oh my gosh, I did, you know, the SEC football national championship. It's like, oh wow, okay, I planned these things for PRSSA, and here's the results that I got. And that's a big thing to highlight on your resume as you're applying for events. The quantity of events that you've managed or you've been a part of. How did you specifically play a role in bettering the event? Did you plan the food? Did you plan the logistics? Did you secure the event? Did you get the highest number of registrations? Getting that experience on campus, utilizing those resources is key. Also look at your big name organizations though, because they do ask for volunteers a lot. I know the Peach Bowl here in Atlanta, they're always looking for volunteers. Always, always, always. So when football bowl season comes around, apply to that. The SEC is always looking for for volunteers, and you don't have to be a member of an SEC school to do it. So in Hoover, which is a suburb of Birmingham, they have SEC media days in the summer. Jill Satorzak, she's on my LinkedIn. It's been a few years, so I wouldn't necessarily leverage that connection, but you can find her information on my LinkedIn.
I connected with you already.
Oh, perfect. I'll check it later. She is the she's always looking for people to support the Country Music Awards, Country Music Association, CMT Awards. They're always looking for people. Their application is on their website. So that's another one to get involved with. Did that answer your question on how to get?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Absolutely. Happy to help.
Have you done any other kind of event planning, or has it really just been like these big types of events?
Oh, it's been big. It's been small. So like I said, before I actually got started in my career, I was helping my mom with weddings and doing wedding event planning. I've done like small meet and greet events, like 10 people or less. I've done the big events. Trade shows are bulk of what you'll do. Client meet and greets, customer receptions, like, hey, we've got this store and we'd love for our customers just to feel welcome. So here's cookies and lemonade. So it spans and it all scales, but I've done a few.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And it was Isabel?
Yes, Isabel.
Thank you for your question, Isabel.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, how else can I support? These are some really good questions. Oh, I see a new face coming forward. Bring it on.
Okay.
Hello.
So, hey,
What's your
name's Cayman, like the islands.
I love that, Cayman. Hi, Cayman.
Ooh, so my question is, what is going through like your head whenever you're like the day of an event? Like, since you're spending like 6 months plus like planning it out, are you like anxious? Are you like ever, I guess like in the mindset like, oh, this is like gonna be a breeze or something? Or yeah.
It depends on what stage we're at in the event. For the vast majority of the time, after spending so much time in broadcast as well as in sports media, you just get in game mode and you're like, okay, who needs me where, point A, point B, going through the script, going through the agenda. And you're also in the back of your head thinking what's about to go wrong next, because it will. But then once you get closer to the end of the event, you see everything moving forward. You're like, I can breathe. So it's really, you can breathe as you get closer to the end of the event, but you're just kind of in go mode, you're in business mode, just thinking, just constantly problem solving. And it's important, just adding this aside, as you are hosting events or if you're the person in charge of the event, never have responsibilities yourself day of. You are the official gopher for whatever anyone else needs. So again, that goes into trying to problem solve as you're starting the event and getting in business mode. Does that answer your question, Cayman?
Yes, but also, how many problems do you see per event that you work at? Like, say if it's like a really big event, is there like multiple problems going on, or
Yeah, it really just varies. Like there'll be some events where it's like 1 or 2 problems are super easy to solve and you're good to go. Or it can be, so a small event I worked that had so many unnecessary things that went wrong was it was on my end. It was not on theirs. I was doing a webinar, in-person webinar with Clayton County Fire and Emergency Services. They run the EMS services for the Atlanta airport and a couple other things, and they were an incredible client for us. So we were going on site, filming with them a live interview about how they had used our product, what they liked about it, what they didn't, and how it's currently helping their bottom line. So we brought everyone lunch, all the firefighters lunch, and we were setting up, and the lunch got delivered wrong. The internet cut out mid-broadcast. The audio went out. The lip sync was weird. And then at the end of it, like as we were signing off, the sirens were going off, letting them know they had a call to go to. And it just so happened that my CEO was on site, as well as my boss and the chief of fire for Clayton County. So that event, it should not have gone wrong. It should have been pretty simple in terms of you give them food, you have great conversations, you get the webinar, and you're out. But then, I mean, there have been trade shows where it's like you're shipping things cross country to Seattle. So from Atlanta to Seattle, you're shipping a booth, you're shipping TVs, you're shipping, in my case, a safe full of like fake empty narcotic bottles. And so you're dealing with glass and RFID tags. All of that went swimmingly. The only thing that happened wrong is they had the wrong lead scanner. So it really, there's no quota, there's no threshold. The bigger the audience, the worse the problems, or the more prior planning, the less the problems. It's just kind of like you prepare for what you can, the worst is going to happen, and you just try to minimize it, and it's kind of luck of the draw.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thanks, Cayman. Do you have any else for me? What other questions do we have?
Hey, Bridget, I do have a question actually.
Perfect.
Thank you for just speaking on your advice and everything that you're telling us. It really helps. So I guess my question is, in any like PR related, marketing related role or event planning role, obviously like you have very long work days, you know, you have lots of different projects going on. And I guess for you, how do you like hit the off button once you like get home? Like what is like the strategy that you use on how to kind of like turn it off in a way?
Yeah, so I had the same question when I was in your shoes, and the best answer I received that also helped me is you've got to look at your life holistically over several months versus day to day, because there will be days with events where I'm working like 12-hour plus days, right? And then there will be other days where it's like, man, you know, I started at 9, it's noon, my day's done. So really it is looking through, if you're constantly working, if you're constantly going over the span of a couple months, then you're not having that life balance that you should. But if you're constantly having more of that life filter in than work, then again, you kind of need to pick it up at work. But shutting it off at the end of every day. When I was in the office, it was a little easier because I'd be like, all right, it's getting dark outside, I've got to go. Currently in this season of life, I'm working from home. So I literally have to force myself, 6 o'clock, got to get out of my office. I've got to go somewhere else, got to do something else. And you've just got to build that time into your schedule, especially when you're working from home, or when we have this new season of unlimited PTO. You really have to be intentional about blocking off your schedule. And I think it's good to bring up and make you guys aware of unlimited PTO. It seems fantastic, right? Like you can take off as much time as you want. No one's going to care. But with this being a new trend, you have to be careful, because with PR, we're always doing something. We're always moving forward, and you have to schedule that time off in advance. Otherwise, you'll find yourself taking a lot of 3-day weekends and not having a week off. So getting back to your question about work-life balance, it's being intentional about everything and seeing the big picture. Did that answer your question, Christian?
Yes, it definitely did. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How else can I support? What questions do you guys have?
We have time for about one more question. So challenge someone new. Go up and ask the question. Bridget. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi,
Hi, what's your name?
Lily.
Hi, Lily.
Yes,
Nice to meet you. Nice to
nice
meet
to
you,
meet
Lily.
you as well. So I graduate next spring, and I have been working on building a website portfolio for when I graduate. But I was just wondering, what would your recommendations be on, like, besides just a resume, what you can have that kind of bolsters you as a person and like as a brand when you graduate?
Great keywords there, talking about your brand, thinking about what else in addition to the resume. So I went down having my own website route as well. And honestly, at this stage in my career, I have the domain, I have the website out in the ether, but I've shut it off. It doesn't provide much value to me anymore, because what an employer is going to do, unless you're applying for like a webmaster job or front-end developer, they're going to go to Google, they're going to type in Lily, and they're going to look at the story you tell, the story that you tell outside of your resume. So this is where Google is going to tell your story either way, regardless of if you build the content or if it's just out there existing in the Google sphere. So use the platforms that you have to your advantage to tell your story. A website's a good piece of that, but LinkedIn is absolutely crucial. When I'm hiring, the first place that I go is LinkedIn, and then I type into Google. I want to see, do you have 500 plus connections, or are you close to it? Are you making the intentional effort to do it? How often are you posting on LinkedIn? Are you following the brands that you want to apply for? Are you following me? Are you me being my brand? Like if I was hiring you for Optima, I'd be like, are you following Optima Ed? Are you using the full battery of the social media platform to your advantage? Do you have a header image? Do you have a title? Do you have descriptions? Are you involved in things? Granted, you guys are graduating from college. You're just now starting your career, but what did you do at KSU? Being a part of PRSSA is amazing. What else are you doing? How are you getting experience? I don't care what that experience is. I want to know, can you do the job that I'm hiring for? If you have all these amazing internships with like Procter & Gamble or Ernst & Young or Siemens equipment, like that's great, but what did you do while you were there? If you just sat there and twiddled your thumbs, like that's no value to me. So having those descriptions in your LinkedIn, utilizing Twitter, it's kind of gone up and down on its value, but right now it's up. And what it does, don't create a professional and a personal, unless you have some sort of spoof personal account. Have one that you balance your professional voice with your personal voice with. Like I'm constantly retweeting Mississippi State Bulldogs, adding in on that. I'm a Formula One race fan, so talking about what's going on in the racing world, in the racing community, but also talking about what's going on in VR, what's going on in public relations, what's going on in marketing. And it allows me to form my own narrative. If you have a YouTube channel, I think that's great. How are you using Instagram? What are the other platforms you're using? If you have a blog, that's awesome. That gives you a lot more context and gives somebody researching you a lot more context into who you are. What are you passionate about? Because something that doesn't get talked about enough when you're this young in your career is culture. The culture fit for the job that you're going into. It's kind of a buzzword, but what does that actually mean? And I promise I'll relate it back to your original question. When you apply for your job, you want to know, they want to know about you. Do your values, morals, and personality align with the values, morals, and personality of the company? Because you can love what you're doing. You can love public relations, event planning all day long. But if you don't believe in who you're doing it for, or if you don't believe in the product, or if you're not excited for the people you're doing it with, it's just going to be grueling. I have entered into one of those situations myself where I was like, wow, this job is great. It's got all the check boxes I'm looking for. It's in the location that I want, and it's at the salary point. But I wasn't passionate about the product, and the work culture didn't fit what I was looking for, and it made it very tough. So all of that goes back into, how are you crafting that narrative around you? How are you crafting that story to boost up your personal brand, but also clearly communicate what you're about? So use your website. Again, make that one piece of many, but on your website, again, that's another opportunity for you to host your resume, get those keyword searches, put links to your social media, kind of make it like a serving platter or a menu of how to get to know you more, and then utilize that Google algorithm to help you kind of boost a little bit. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the social media, because as you were talking, I was like, oh, I should ask about social media too. Because I tried to do a professional account and I was like, I don't even know what to post here. So that makes total sense. Thank you.
If you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer it. LinkedIn seems like an anomaly, a tough nut to crack. And I'm so sorry. I know Christian and Olivia that I'm going over a little bit. So feel free to kind of get the hook to put me off the stage. But with social media, really, again, it's all about letting your personal brand shine. Like if you scroll through my Instagram, you're going to see tons of pictures of my Maltese dog, who's probably running around here somewhere. So people can know that I love dogs. You're going to see a lot of Mississippi State. You're going to see a lot of Alabama, a lot of racing, but you're also going to see, I'm really passionate about event planning, digital marketing, and emerging technology. So you're going to see those through my brands. But with LinkedIn, it really is sharing. It's kind of like a kind of promo board for yourself where you can share, hey, I'm really interested in this, and this is what I think about it. Or, wow, I read this really cool article on event planning on LinkedIn, and this is what I took away from it. What do you guys think? Try to spark conversation if you can. But just think it's a platform for you to share what's important to you and what you think.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What other questions? Any?
So, Bridgette, come back over. So I did see one in the chat. So real quick, I just want to give light to Hannah's question, and then let's break for a picture. Which I'll talk you through that process, Bridgette. I know it's like, how do we do that? Okay, so Hannah asked, what resume tips do you advise are useful? Yeah.
Hannah, I'm so sorry I missed your question, but thank you for hanging in there. Resume tips that are helpful. Oh, there are so many. The number one I can give you is, I know they're cute, I know they're pretty, but do not use the Canva resume templates. Absolutely awful. Not that they don't look pretty, they're really great if you print them out and share them. But if you're applying to an agency, job's going to be completely different. So I'll get to that in a second. But if you're applying to a nonprofit or an in-house organization, whether it's B2B, business, or B2C, business, consumer. Oh, actually, here comes my dog coming to interrupt us. Excuse me. It's D'Artagnan.
Oh.
But the Canva resumes, really what they want when you're applying for a job is they want the standard black and white, no headshot, no frills. You can add in some color, like my personal branding colors are blue and gold. So on my resume, I have hints of blue in it, just kind of break up the monotony. But the more boring the resume, the higher it is to perform, because they want to be able to easily see in detail, brief detail. What did you do? What impact did you have? How can you impact your organization? They spend 30 seconds on your resume, if that. Scroll through, make sure you have what you need to qualify to do the job, and then they're going to bounce. But the headshot really gets you into trouble if you add a headshot to your resume, because there's a huge push in the hiring industry to not discriminate based off of what you look like, if you're male or female, what your background is. So putting the headshot, even no matter how hard you try, as a resume reviewer, you're going to have this image in your head of this person without meeting them. So it kind of helps you in the long run, but you also have to think about the applicant tracking system. Again, going back to algorithms, it's going to scan your resume for keywords, different things related to the job post. So the more bland you can make your resume look, the easier it is to scan. So those are my resume tips. Oh. Action words and measurables. So let's say, for instance, you were going to put PRSSA at KCU on your resume. You wouldn't want to put like attended meetings and met with great people. You would want to be like consistently, or you would want to put like attended 5 meetings, led conversations with industry leaders, like those really actionable, quantifiable, and qualifiable results.
Bridgette, those are just great responses and like great tips. I have to say, thank you so much for your candid responses. This has been such a great conversation, and I'm glad that other members have been able to interact with you this evening. Sometimes we get down to like the last minute, we have like time for one question. So I'm so happy that we were able to have so much wonderful conversation with so many different people tonight. So just thank you so much for all the great conversation.
Of course, anytime. I'm happy to support. I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like, and there were people that helped me along the way. So I'm happy to support if I can. I'm local, and so if you guys want to like meet up for coffee and go through something, or if you have questions, phone call, text message, email, LinkedIn. I haven't quite figured out smoke signal or carrier pigeon, but I'm happy to help you.
Well, thank you so much. That's so wonderful and so gracious of you. So at this time, why don't all of you in here gather in front of that screen? Do you need someone to take the picture? Katie or Cayman, maybe if you could stand on a chair. You need to stand on a chair, sure, girl. So
Cayman, one of y'all take the picture, the group photo. We can do a selfie later.
that's a great idea. So awesome. So yep, everyone just kind of crowd up. I'll stay here just for convenience sake. Katie, girlfriend, I hope you get the height you need up. Okay. All right. And then, well, here, I'll switch back to gallery view. People on Zoom, like Hannah, I don't mean to call you out, but if you are in the position to turn on your camera, awesome. If not, no worries. And yeah, so Katie, just 3, 2, 1, Kennesaw PRSSA, and we'll smile and have a good old time. Act like you like each other. Awesome. Oh. Katie, what happened to the Kennesaw PRSSA? No. Now, Katie, come on up. You want to get a selfie with Bridgette? This is Katie, Bridgette.
Hi. You're a great photographer. Love the PRSSA shirt.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Hey, Annette, I see your message this time. Thank you. Oh, nice speaking with you. Hi, Katie. Okay, how do we do this selfie?
I can like, I don't know, do that.
Okay.
Or if you want to do it on the screen. Oh yeah, Bridgette, your face is huge on the screen in here, so maybe that works.
Oh, great. Oh, perfect.
Did that work? Yeah. Okay.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Okay. That works.
You know, hybrid format, figuring it out, but
I understand. Well, thank you guys so much for having me tonight. Thank you for those really great questions, for being so engaging. And I mean it. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. As a reminder, usually text message, phone call, or LinkedIn are the fastest way to get me. So if I can do anything, let me know.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Bridgette. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and thank you so much for being so willing to talk with us and connect with us. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity. Y'all have a great night and apply for eBoard.
Thanks, Bridgette.
Thank you, Bridgette.
Bye.